The night over Grindavik was so quiet you could hear the waves breaking against the rocky shore. But in the early hours of December 18, 2023, that silence was torn apart. When volcanoes speak, the earth trembles and mankind listens. Somewhere deep beneath the frozen ground, a low guttural hiss echoed like the breath of a giant beast awakening from centuries of sleep. Then the earth shook. Not once, not twice, but again and again, faster, harder, stronger. Just 79 minutes after the first tremors, the ground split wide open, a 4.2-kilometer gash slashed across the town. From it, molten rock erupted at 1,500 cubic meters per second, 3 times faster than the Fagradal Fjall eruption of 2021. Columns of fire shot high into the dark sky, turning the North Atlantic night blood red. At that moment, the only question on every mind was, how long will anything here survive? The Reykjanes Peninsula sits on the crack between 2 massive tectonic plates, the North American and Eurasian slowly pulling apart at about 2 centimeters a year. Normally this movement is silent, but in late 2023, something stirred below. A massive body of magma began to rise from deep within the earth, 3 to 5 kilometers beneath the surface. Over just 3 weeks, it triggered more than 4,000 small earthquakes, the largest measuring M4.8. Icelanders are used to minor quakes, but this was different. The shaking didn't fade, it intensified. Pressure built like a sealed pressure cooker on a roaring flame. And when it finally blew, it didn't just hiss, it roared. Compared to the 2021 Fagradalsfjall eruption, Sunnukor was deadlier in one critical way: location. It erupted right next to Grindavik and dangerously close to the Svartsengi geothermal plant, the lifeline for 30,000 people who depend on it for heat and electricity. At 2:47 a.m., the crack in the earth began to glow, a wound torn open in the planet's skin. Fire shot upward with the crackling sound of shattering stone. Lava, blistering at 1,1200 Sries, poured out in relentless waves. It spread 30 to 80 meters wide, piled up to 410 meters high, and crawled forward at 50 to 80 meters per minute, fast enough to swallow an asphalt road in under 2 minutes. The stench of sulfur dioxide filled the air, measured at more than 2,000 micrograms per cubic meter, 4 times the safe limit set by the World Health Organization. Under the flickering orange glow, a convoy of headlights streamed out of Grindavik. 3,800 residents fled their homes, many with only the clothes on their backs. From a distance, the town looked like a lone island in a sea of molten fire. Beautiful in a way, but fatally beautiful. By sunrise, the scale of the disaster was undeniable. More than 200 homes lay in ruins, losses estimated at over $60 million. The Svartsengi geothermal plant, producing 75 megawatts of power, had been shut down to prevent catastrophic damage, leaving tens of thousands without heat or electricity in the depths of an Arctic winter. Authorities locked down a 3-kilometer exclusion zone around the fissure. Scientists tripled the density of GPS sensors, from 5 to 15 per square kilometer, to detect the slightest movement of the ground. Near Svartsengi, a lava barrier 6 meters high and 600 meters long was hastily built, inspired by Iceland's daring 1973 defense of Heimaey Harbor, when they slowed lava by spraying it with seawater. Before December 18th, Grindavik was a quiet fishing town, where children played on the docks and fishermen came home with the tide. Now 3.7 square kilometers of its land lie buried beneath black, hardened lava. Streets once leading to the ocean are now frozen rivers of stone. Homes are nothing but jagged mounds, stripped of all warmth. But perhaps the heaviest loss is invisible, the sudden disappearance of the feeling that this was ever a safe place to live. When nature decides to redraw the map, every human creation becomes nothing more than lines in the sand. Tomorrow, we'll take you back to an eruption centuries ago, one so powerful it changed the climate of the entire planet. And you may realize, Sunnukor is just the latest reminder from a restless Earth that we are only temporary guests here. It began as a quiet rumble beneath the Reykjanes Peninsula, barely a whisper in the darkness. Then on the evening of March 19, 2021, the earth cracked open. A fiery glow spilled into the night, as if Iceland itself had lit a torch to pierce the Arctic sky. Every volcano is a reminder that the Earth is alive, and sometimes it wants you to notice. A fissure nearly 500 meters long bled molten rock onto the surface, flowing like a river born from the planet's core. For the first time in nearly 800 years, Fagradalsfjall had awakened, and it would not go quietly. The Reykjanes Peninsula sits astride the mid-Atlantic ridge, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates pull apart at 2 centimeters per year. For centuries, this slow movement released little more than the occasional tremor. But in early 2021, something changed. Magma began to accumulate 4 to 6 kilometers below the surface. Over weeks, more than 50,000 small earthquakes rattled the peninsula. The largest measured M5.6, shaking homes and waking residents in the middle of the night. For most of Iceland's recent history, this region had been dormant. Scientists initially suspected it was just another swarm of harmless quakes, until the crust finally gave way. The first night was surreal. Lava, at 1200 dak, surged from the fissure at a rate of 5 to 10 cubic meters per second. Unlike explosive eruptions, this one was calm, almost graceful. The lava flowed slowly, spilling into valleys and lighting the sky for miles. Crowds gathered from nearby towns, standing at the safe edge of the lava field, mesmerized by the birth of new land. In its first month, the eruption produced more than 30 million cubic meters of lava, covering 4.8 square kilometers, but Fagradalsfjall was not finished. Over the next 2 years, it erupted multiple times in 2022 and again in 2023, each time breaking through the surface at new fissures. Because the eruption occurred far from populated areas, no mass evacuation was necessary. Authorities established safety zones, restricting access to areas directly in the lava's path. Scientists used drones, satellite imagery, and GPS sensors to track changes in the lava field in real time. The eruption became a rare opportunity for researchers to study the birth of volcanic land in a controlled environment, and for tourists to witness an active eruption up close without catastrophic danger. Fagradalsfjall was not a disaster. It was a revelation. It reminded Icelanders and the world that their island is still young, still restless, still growing. In just 2 years, the volcano reshaped the Reykjanes Peninsula, creating new valleys, new ridges, and a fresh reminder that the Earth's heartbeat can sometimes be heard in the crackle of lava under an Arctic sky.
Man.
That's terrifying. You can't tell your mom. You can't tell your mom this happened.
No. Man, look.